Hello everyone, Ollie here from 𝕣𝕖𝕧𝕚 and happy Halloween. I'm not really a Halloween guy, but what better to review Halloween 1978, the John Carpenter classic. This review's not going to be really long just because, one, I'm not good at talking for too long. But yeah, and I'm probably not going to say, I don't break down a lot of films. I'll just talk about my positives, my negatives, maybe some mixed aspects of the film, or any films that I talk about. And then, yeah, obviously give my rating. Yeah, I haven't rewatched it for this video, but I remember enough to, discuss it. So, I think this is a really great horror film. Let's just get that out there right now. Is it my favourite horror film of all time? No, it's not my favourite, but it is a classic. John Carpenter, however, is most likely, he's definitely like maybe my top 3 favourite horror directors. Just like his 80s style. Or the fact that most of the films that I like are from the 80s, or in this case, late 70s, and even the early, mid, late 80s. But he kind of gone a bit downhill in the mid, late 90s and 2000s. But obviously, all the films are subjective, and everyone has their own opinions, and I can respect that. But yeah, John Carpenter is one of my favourite horror directors. Don't know if he's my favourite, but he's definitely up there. So, Halloween. Is Halloween my favourite of his films? I think it was at one point, but The Thing, I think, has topped that now after rewatching it, and yeah, it's brilliant. But I'm not going to get into The Thing because that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Halloween. So, for the occasion, got my John Carpenter shirt here. Obviously got The Thing, like I just mentioned, got obviously Halloween, and all the other, not all of them, but most of his other films, his most popular films. Yeah, so anyway, Halloween. So, Michael Myers, he is, again, he's probably in my top, he's definitely up there in my favourite horror icons, alongside like Ghostface. Freddy Krueger, I'm a bit meh on because most of his films I'm not a massive fan of, but I really like the look of Freddy Krueger. I like his like attributes and stuff. I think it's really cool. But yeah, Michael Myers is definitely up there as one of my favourite horror icons. I don't know if it's my favourite, but I should have thought about that before I recorded, but he is definitely one of my favourite horror icons. I've actually got a picture of me at Comic-Con a couple years ago with Michael, Jason Voorhees, and Ghostface, which was awesome. So I'll put it up on screen right now. Yeah, anyway, let's get into Halloween. So, positives for Halloween 1978. I really like the aesthetic of the film. I really like the way it was set. Obviously it's set in 1978, the year that it was made, but I just like the look of it. I like the vintage look of it, and obviously I say it's intentional because it's made in the late 70s, so I just like the aesthetic. I like this Michael Myers, this version of Michael Myers. Of course, it's the OG, played by Nick Castle. Is he my favourite portrayal of Michael Myers? Most likely, but I do think James Jude Courtney is my favourite. Him and Nick Castle, I'd say, is probably tied as my favourite Michael Myers roles, or interpretations, should I say. Whilst I have my issues with the David Gordon Green films, I do think James Jude Courtney is definitely probably the best part of the trilogy, his portrayal of Myers, which is obviously one of the main parts of the film, so I'm glad that that's the best part of that entire trilogy. So, yeah, Nick Castle's great as the Shape. There's not much gore in it, which doesn't really bug me, to be honest. A lot of people were like, oh, it's boring, no, it's very tame, and sure, but I don't mind that. quite, I don't know what else to add to that, but I don't mind the fact that it's more tame than like Halloween Kills or, let's say, the Rob Zombie films. Most Halloween fans don't like the Rob Zombie films, but I'm kind of included. But I can respect some of the aspects in those films. But anyway, I don't mind the tameness of the gore in this film, the original. I like Michael Myers, Donald Pleasance. Oh, he's legendary. As Dr. Loomis. And I just really like his performance. It's just really cool.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left. No reason, no conscience, no understanding, and even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, of good or evil, right or wrong. I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up, because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
Yeah, but anyway, Donald Pleasance is awesome. Jamie Lee Curtis, the final girl. She's good. She's certainly not my favourite final girl. I'd probably say Sidney Prescott is my favourite final girl. Obviously, Sidney Prescott played by Neve Campbell in Scream. But I think Laurie Strode is okay in this. She's definitely not at her best. I'd probably say she's her best in H2O, Halloween 20 Years Later, which is also a pretty decent film. It definitely has its flaws, but Laurie in this film, she was okay. Oh, of course, I can't forget about the score as well. One of the most iconic and recognisable scores in all of horror. Just the ding 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 ding. It's definitely the most recognisable horror theme of all time, but it is definitely one of my favourite horror themes. It's just so iconic. Badass in some ways as well when Michael comes in. Ding 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 ding. But yeah, really great score. I'd say I quite like the story. I think the story, even though it's pretty basic, I like a basic story, like a pretty simple. Well, simple is the right word, not basic. It's quite a simple, straightforward story, which I tend to like. Every now and again, I like a bit of a more complexy, more a story that requires more thinking. But I like this pretty straightforward story. The fact that this mental patient is escaped and basically goes back to his hometown, because obviously we see at the beginning of the film when Michael's young and then he kills his sister Judith, and then spoilers by the way, and then basically he gets put in an institution and he ends up breaking out by driving in Loomis's car. Yeah, he's found in Haddonfield, and by the end obviously he gets shot by Loomis. Supposedly killed, but he ends up disappearing, which is badass. The ending of the film, the fact he disappears and it's just like credits roll, it's like shit, where has he gone? And then obviously if you watch the sequels, we kind of know where he is, but if you watch it as a standalone film, which I sometimes like to do, because it's like, oh shit, where is he? So yeah, the story's really cool. Most of the characters are kind of good. They're good. But I'd say the highlight to me is Donald Pleasance as Dr. Loomis, just because he's just so iconic. He's just a national treasure to me. So I've got the score, the story, some of the characters I've listed off. I just like the aesthetic of the film. Do I have any negatives? I don't think so. I like where it's set in Illinois. Obviously it's Haddonfield, Illinois. Is obviously a fictional place. The fact that Deborah Hill, obviously co-writer of this film with John Carpenter, obviously they were partners in during the filming, but the fact that she wants to base it around her hometown and in that kind of area in Illinois, and yeah, I just really like that. It sounds crazy, but I don't really have a whole lot to say. So I like the music. I like this version of Myers quite a lot. The mask is obviously iconic. The fact that they've gone through several masks throughout this franchise is baffling. The fact that they haven't used the same one in each film is just stupid. But anyway, that's another story. Yeah, it's obviously got you got obviously the iconic title sequence, obviously, which is obviously the very beginning of the film. Obviously, we see the credits, the iconic theme, and the pumpkin, and going into the pumpkin. It's just really iconic. Yeah, I like the story. I like this version of Myers. Really like Donald Pleasance as Dr. Loomis. Love where the film's set. I just like the fact that it's set in a town, and the fact that this could happen to anyone, anytime. Yeah, it sounds crazy, but I didn't have a whole lot to say. I didn't want to make this video too long because, you know, I can get this out quicker. And I want to make sure I get this out on Halloween, because Halloween. So, yeah, I really like it. Is it a little overrated? I wouldn't argue with anyone on the fact that it's a bit overrated, but overrated doesn't mean it's bad, obviously. I'm just saying that, sure, everyone hypes up to the fact that it's like it's God's creation or whatever. It's like, it's great, but it's not this masterpiece that everyone makes, that a lot of people make it out to be. It is one of my favourite John Carpenter films, but I don't want to say it's far from one of my all-time favourites, but it's a pretty damn good horror film. Yeah. What would I rate this film? I'd probably give this gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Pretty decent. So that's a great, which is on my rating system on Letterboxd. So 8 out of 10, 4-star. Pretty damn good film. Pretty short review. Apologies, but I've basically said what I've said. I don't really have any negatives, like any blatant negatives. Yeah, can't think of any, to be honest. Like any, I mean, sure there might be some nitpicks, but I probably should have thought of this before recording. But yeah, yeah, that's it, guys. If you enjoyed this quick review on John Carpenter's Halloween, give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you guys think of John Carpenter's Halloween in the comments below. Let me know your positives, negatives, mixed, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.